G'day, Max Verstappen, normally calm and cool, lost that cool today and has probably realised he's not going to win the World Drivers' Championship. You've probably seen what happened today at the Spanish Grand Prix. Max Verstappen angry, running George Russell off the road late in the race. Later on, after the event, in the media pen, he was very short with the media, not happy with the questioning. This year Max has had some ups and downs and he's managed to keep things pretty cool post-race. But today that wasn't the case. Certainly Sky Television was on the end of a couple of interesting comments, and you've probably seen those. I won't go into detail. He was very late into the media pen. Now, it's not essential that you go straight to the media pen after you've finished a race, but a lot of the drivers do that. I think he's gone back to calm things down a little bit. I think up until today, Max probably thought he was a very real chance to take out that championship, but my gut feeling is that he's realised that he's less of a contender and very much in the shadow of the two McLaren drivers. And when you look at the current World Drivers' Championship leader, Oscar Piastri, and you compare him to Max, they're completely different characters. And Oscar is very calm, collected, never shows much real emotion, though on the car today he did pump his fists, and I did see a big smile from him down in the TV media pen. I know, of course, that they are completely different characters, and certainly what Max has done over the past 4 years has worked because he has 4 World Drivers' Championships. And we see Max from time to time get angry in press conferences and be very short with his answers. He failed to go into too much detail, stating that he didn't want to cop another penalty. You'll have your own opinions on that, but I think now Max realises he's not going to win that championship, and perhaps he's much more open to a move to another team. And the most likely team? Probably Mercedes. And still on the subject of Red Bull, I think there's a very real chance that shortly, and I'm talking a few races, we will see Isack Hadjar replace Yuki Tsunoda. Of course, Yuki's struggling at the moment, and it struck me at the end of today when I saw him in the media pen walking out, and I thought, he's not looking confident. Isack, on the other hand, has proved to be pretty much the rookie of the year. Briefly, have a look at this. This is a panorama shot. 4 high-resolution files stitched together to produce a super high-res panorama shot of one of the greatest moments in sport history, and that is the start of the F1 race in Monaco from 2025. And you can own a copy by heading to the shop at kimellman.com. It'll be printed on canvas and sent to most anywhere in the world. Let's talk Lewis Hamilton. Today, he drove his car nearly into the paddock. They opened the big gate. He got out. Only a few of the media were at that gate. He chatted for some time with some folks out there. And then his security guard got an umbrella out to deliberately hide him from the media. It's an unusual thing, and we haven't seen that for a long time. Although this is what happened on Thursday. He drove his Pura Sangue up to these swipe gates, stopped, had a look at probably 10 photographers who'd run up there, me included, and then decided he would go over to the gate that goes into pit lane. That was our cue to head to this door, go through this door and this door to get out to pit lane and wait for him to turn the corner, which he did. And at that point, he didn't realise there were any photographers there, and he was taking the person that let him in through that gate. Then his security man came around the corner, and then it was at that moment Lewis realised that there were photographers waiting to shoot him. So he then proceeded to pretty much walk behind his security man, phone up to his face, and walk past us and on through pit lane and back into the garage. I'm not sure what that was all about. As you can see, he was wearing Ferrari kit. Now, I understand he's done a deal with Ferrari that allows him to wear fashion gear a certain number of days a year. And this certainly wasn't one of those days, but all of us were a little perplexed as to why he didn't want to be photographed. This doesn't happen with any other driver, and I understand Lewis has been at this for a very long time, and it must be perhaps a grind to be photographed everywhere you go, but typically all drivers accept the fact that when they walk into the paddock, there will be anywhere from 10 to 50 photographers and videographers in their face. But coming back to today, he ended up riding a skateboard right to the hospitality suite. Oh, and I must say that on Saturday, going into the garage, he was great with fans, stopped for a good couple of minutes to appease most of those people looking for selfies and autographs. Let's go to Lance Stroll. We were advised last night by a press release that he would not be racing today, and unfortunately for the team, because he'd competed in qualifying and then pulled out afterwards with a wrist injury. This dates back to 2023. Remember, he had that incident on a bicycle, hurt both of his wrists, had one operated on. I don't think they could operate on the other one, and the pain he experienced during qualifying meant that he couldn't race. You can't put a reserve driver in to a race day car if they haven't qualified. Now today I asked a couple of people early on in the day if he was going to be at the track, and I got a lot of people very cagey dancing around, saying nothing really, but it's my understanding he wasn't at the track, although it was a little strange to see his trainer, his manager and his mentor there. I think he's gone and had medical procedures straight away to see if he can get back to racing in Montreal. Now if he can't, there are two reserve drivers for Aston Martin, Stoffel van Dorn, Felipe Drugovich. Both of those drivers, though, are racing in Le Mans. So who would step in if they can't then break their Le Mans contract? Valtteri Bottas says he is ready. I chatted to him today. He's not officially a reserve driver, but that's not to stop the team saying, Valtteri, can you step in and race in Montreal? Well, many of the teams have to drag their hospitality suites from one track to the next. And when the races are back-to-back, that means that teams only have a few days to get them unpacked and reset up. Well, Mercedes don't have that problem because for the last 3 races here in Europe, they've leapfrogged suites. 2 races ago, this one was in Imola, and last week in Monaco, they had this one. And this one, I'd say, will go to Austria next. And on the subject of hospitality suites, I think you'll find that come next year in Monaco, we won't have the standard hospitality suites. I believe they're going to go the way of, say, Singapore or even Japan, where we have these makeshift hospitality suites that are put into the paddock, all looking pretty much the same, because there's another team that has to fit in there next year, and there's just no room. If that's the case, Red Bull will be laughing, because they'll still have their Monster Energy station out floating on the water. And if you're a sponsor and you want to be wined and dined at that blue-ribboned event, that could be just the thing that sways you to go to Red Bull. Thought this was a nifty promotion for Hilton. They set up this beautiful door outside the McLaren hospitality suite and hung one of these things over the door handle, which would typically be a do not disturb sign or please clean my room. But instead, this is 20 years of association with McLaren. Let's jump now to Isack Hadjar. He came in today in a Paris Saint-Germain sweater, as did Pierre Gasly. Both of those French drivers went to a function, well, it was a private function, for their crew to watch the Champions League final, which, of course, Paris Saint-Germain won 5-0 over Inter Milan. And where was that apartment? I'm not sure, but the guys rented it for the sole purpose of getting a whole bunch of people together to watch that game. And when he got to the Red Bull hospitality suite, he was told in no uncertain terms that you needed to wear this shirt, not that PSG shirt. And I think part of the reason why is because Red Bull, the head office, owns 10% in a competitor, Paris FC. I could be wrong on that, but if you know more, I'd love to see your comments below. After today's race, there were plenty of hugs in the Hulkenberg camp because he managed to score 10 points for the team, finishing 5th. It was an admirable effort, and so far this year he's only had 2 points results. And I don't think Sauber had expected anything like that, so well done to Nico, and happy times at Sauber. This lavish coach arrived at 1 p.m. today with a police escort and dropped off some of the best footballers in the world, the English soccer team. Football team if you're from this part of the world. They were guests of the FIA and the likes of Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane, Reece James, all there, all well dressed, but get this, every one of them had a stunning watch on. I reckon there would have been close to $3 million worth of watches on their wrist. It was an impressive display, and they arrived at the same time the drivers were out doing their drivers' parade, which meant most of the media weren't in the paddock. So it was an easier task for them to get where they were going. They later ended up out on the grid and then were locked in a separate area away from the fans so that they could enjoy the spectacle of the pre-race ceremonies. Also before the start of the race, we had Luca Di Maio, who's the CEO of Renault, having a heart-to-heart with Franco Colapinto, along with Carlos Sainz Sr., having a heart-to-heart with Charles Leclerc. Now, on the subject of McLaren, the shareholders must be delighted with the performance of the team. Their values shot up immeasurably. And I did happen to come across a woman, this young lady here, who's going to be in my Women of the Paddock post shortly, sporting a tattoo of number 4 and number 81, both of the McLaren drivers, enjoying a drink from a Magnum. Or maybe even a Jeroboam. Let's kick it off with Oscar Piastri in this Mercedes SUV, Lando Norris in a Mercedes Vito van, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton both driving Ferrari Purosangues, Max Verstappen in a Ford Escape, and Yuki Tsunoda in a Ford Raptor, which is one of my favourite cars. I had one going back in Bahrain, loved it. George Russell and Kimi Antonelli both driving G-Wagons, both Aston Martin drivers in DBXs, they rarely change. Franco Colapinto and Pierre Gasly in Renault Espaces, a people mover. Esteban Ocon in an Audi Q7. And Ollie Behrman told me he was driving a very safe Volvo, because safety, Kim, is number one. Civic Type Rs were the order of the day for Isack, Hadjar and Liam Lawson. Alexander Albon in a Mercedes C220D, while Carlos, his teammate, in a GLE 350DE, and Gabriel Bortoletto in an Audi SR6. And Nico Hulkenberg was in an Audi RS7. Oh, and what was I driving? A Ford Capri again, and it has one of the best turning circles of any car I've ever driven. With that said, I'm going to leave you to get about the rest of your day, but before you go, please, could you hit the like button? And for those unsubscribed, what's stopping you there? Next week, I'm off to Montreal, and I'll be getting you to tell me where I should travel for a few days. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And finally, thanks for watching, and stay passionate. Hit the subscribe.